We've only gone and done it again. We've only gone and done it again. We've hijacked another deal. Another deal, breaking news. We have hijacked another deal. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to From the Shed End. Welcome back to a brand new video. If you're new, we're on the road to 700 subscribers. We're 20 subscribers away from that. So if you're new, make sure you subscribe. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Linktree link is also in the description. But we've hijacked another deal. This feels like Enzo Fernandez all over again. This feels like Moises Caicedo, Romeo Lavia all over again. Giovanni Quenda, 17-year-old, has signed a deal with Chelsea. 7-year deal. Won't be joining us till 2026, but still, we have... And I know I talk about kids on here a lot. I always moan about we're signing kids. I say it so much on this channel, but this one I will allow to have nothing said wrong about it at the moment. Now, of course, Giovanni Quenda, very, very good. If you don't know about him, he's a right winger, can also play right wing back. He is essentially, I would say, the next big talent to come out of Portuguese football, currently playing for Sporting Lisbon. He's 17 years of age, as I said. This one, I feel, will have some good quality amongst the transfer. Now, we have spent in the region of £40 million to bring him to Stamford Bridge. Medical has been done. This has been confirmed by David Ornstein and others amongst the journalism world. They have come out and told us the good news on a Friday that seems to be, after a very poor performance, we're going to get into the poor performance last night against Copenhagen in the Conference League. But this news here, Quenda. Now, some will say, why have we signed him? Another kid, why have we signed someone that's, we've got Esteve coming in as well. Cole Palmer can play on the right side. Noni Madueke can play on the right side. Pedro Neto can play on the right side. We're almost overly stacked in that area of the pitch. But I do think, and I'm going to be honest, I do think that the club are now buying players at the club to, I wouldn't say to facilitate for Maresca, essentially. I think we're buying players that will fit into a system that will accommodate and can be used by other managers. Now, I'm not saying Maresca is on the brink of being sacked or being moved on, or nothing like that, but I think we're buying these players, essentially for me, we're buying certain players because we know that they're adaptable for other managers. If a manager wants to play 5 at the back and play 2 wing backs, we now know that Giovanni Quenda can play there. Could we say the same about Reece James? Could we say the same about Malo Gusto? So it kind of gives you a bit more option there. If you wanted to change things tactically, maybe that's why we haven't seen a 3 at the back at the moment, maybe. And we won't see it for another season or so because Quenda, as I say, isn't joining us till 2026. But this is a signing I'm absolutely on board with. We're so close to signing for Manchester United. They inquired about him in January. He's used to working with Ruben Amorim. He knows him very well. That's why the deal at United was about to be done. And somehow, somewhere, we've been able to hijack the deal. Now, I'm really, really excited about it. What will he bring? Well, he's a very dynamic winger. He can take on players 1v1s. He can cut in. He's very skillful in terms of how he's able to hold the ball up as well. He's very strong on the ball. He's got a really good passing range as well. So there's a lot of qualities already that, from what I've watched him at Sporting Lisbon, that we'll be able to hopefully see him come and do at some point at Chelsea. Now, there is a massive question mark, one, about the transfer fee. As I said, £40 million is a lot of money to pay for a 17-year-old winger. But at the same time as well, we could be on the brink of signing one of the greatest players that we'll see in the next couple of years. Now, we might not. He could potentially be another dud, a Lucas Piazon. He could be one of those players, but at the same time as well, I think there are some gambles and risks you have to take, not just in football management, but in business. And this is one of those moments. This is one of those moments. I remember when we signed Cole Palmer, and a lot of people said, why have we spent so much money on Cole Palmer? That's come out and worked wonders in terms of the transfer fee and the quality we've got from Cole Palmer. So I do get it with this signing of Giovanni Quenda. I do think it's a signing that we needed as well, because as much as Noni Madueke is good, to get, beat players and he can do that, he hasn't got that final third pass, that final pass into the box, that execution to penetrate the defense. He hasn't got that. Now, Quenda, for me, as I've said, I've seen a lot of him for Sporting Lisbon in the Portuguese league and in the European competitions, and he's a good player. He can take on defenders. He can get the balls into the box. And he knows how to take on these defenders. That's one of the things that we struggle to do, especially on the right side as well. Now, obviously, that does raise a lot of question marks about Pedro Neto, what happens to him. Terry George, we got to see him last night. He was playing very well. He's one of the outstanding players last night. What does it mean for certain players? You would expect someone will be moved on in the summer, if not this summer, the following summer, to accommodate for certain players that we still have, out on loan or we signed and they're not joining us for a year or two. We want to see those players in our squad. And if we want them in the squad, that means certain players will have to move on. And we knew that anyway. This is the model that the owners are having. And we can't forget what I've been saying on these videos. Just because we're signing Giovanni Quenda doesn't mean that this is now a deal that will stop all the noise around the ownership. The ownership is still at fault for a lot of things, but this is a signing I can get behind. And I can see why we've signed him. He's someone that will hopefully fit into the team. If that's not Maresca's there, then there'll be another manager, but he will fit into our team. If we can get him playing the way that he's currently playing at Sporting, we've got a decent player in our hands. And like I said, he's versatile. He can play right wing back, right wing as well. So that's a massive, massive plus. Let's see how that unfolds. Let's see how he progresses. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Chelsea fans now watching, not just in the Champions League or European competitions that Sporting make, but they'll be watching a close eye on him now as well. But he's a good player. The fee is the fee. Let's not moan about the fee too much. The fee is the fee. We never moaned when it was Cole Palmer. Look what we've got for him. Even Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez have actually given us their money's worth. And Marco Correa are also giving us their money's worth as well. But let's see how that pans out. Now, before we get on to last night's game, let's also talk about England. Thomas Tuchel's named his first England squad. Reece James, Levi Colwill, and Cole Palmer have all made the squad for the 2 games coming up in the international period now. Bit concerned, I'll be honest, about Reece James because his legs are made out of Weetabix. And we know this because we've seen how many injuries he's picked up over the last 2 or 3 seasons. And we can't afford, we've just got Reece James back to a point where we were able to actually see him play 90 minutes of football or actually see him come off the bench and impact games and not go off injured for a long period of time. It sounds stupid and comical, but this is where we are with Reece James. So I'm mindful of whether he's been picked and he hopefully won't be used in both games, but manage his minutes how we're managing him at Chelsea, please, Thomas Tuchel, because we need Reece James for the remainder of this season to see it out, to hopefully get top 4, top 5, and to get that Conference League trophy as well. So I'm mindful. The one that I'd like to see come out of the team, if there was any withdrawals, I'd want it to be Reece James because I think we've got to wrap him up in cotton wool. We've got to try and get him through this season. And like I keep saying, he's got to have a really positive pre-season, next season Club World Cup as well. He's got to be able to deal with what we're expecting him to do. Credit to Levi Colwill. I think he's been fairly decent for us this season. It makes sense to have him in the squad, and Cole Palmer is Cole Palmer. Yes, his form's dipped a little bit, but at the same time as well, you know what he can do. When you're given that one chance, you can't really pick an England squad and not have Cole Palmer in it because it just doesn't make any sense. So let's hope Reece James, if he does play, doesn't pick up any big injuries, because that out of the 3 that we've got in the England squad from a Chelsea perspective is the one that I'm sort of thinking we can't afford any injuries, Mr. James. So we need to get him back fully fit. Hopefully he comes out of that unscathed. But good to see Cole Palmer, Levi Colwill in there. And obviously Thomas Tuchel has raised a lot of question marks about his England selection. Let me know what you think about all of that stuff down below in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Road to 700. We have to talk about him. We have to. I don't want to, but we're going to have to talk about the match last night because I was struggling to stay awake. For that game. It was that bad. It was diabolical. And one thing I want to say actually before we talk about the actual match, and it's again going back to what I've been saying, the amount of empty seats last night at Stamford Bridge is telling on how much these owners are milking Chelsea Football Club. I can't remember the last time, especially in the Westview, and just the West Stand in general. I can't remember the last time that many seats were available. Tickets were on general sale. It was a big game. When you think about the magnitude of the game compared in the grand scheme of things in terms of our season, last night was actually a really big game. It was almost make or break for the season. I can't remember the last time we saw that many empty seats. at Stamford Bridge, to be honest. Just, credit to Copenhagen, their fans were the noisiest last night as well. But in terms of the game, in terms of the performance, it was poor. It was poor. If I had to pick out two standouts in that first half, it would have been Josh Ashiempong, who I thought was amazing. You know, unnatural position, essentially playing as a left back, but he looked very comfortable, you know, stepping into the midfield, running forward with the ball, creating chances as well. And Tariq George, another one, you know, I spoke about him highly on here before. I thought he played brilliantly. You know, I thought he looked very comfortable. He was very unlucky, I think, in some of his moments in that first half, and especially in the second half. You know, it's so unfortunate for Josh to be subbed off. But those changes were needed at halftime. Those changes were needed because we didn't have a shot on target in the first half, and we weren't clinical enough in terms of trying to create any chances in that first half. So, you know, Cucurella coming on, Cole Palmer was needed. They were needed. Those changes were needed in that second half. And credit to Copenhagen, because they didn't just sit back and allow us to dictate the game. Yes, we had more possession. Yes, we had probably more chances in that second half, but they still gave us a game. They still fought to the very end, and they were very unfortunate not to progress through to the next round. Keenan Dewsbury, very good goal. You know, was able to almost cut through the defense. He was able to take on the defense very well, scored a goal, very good strike. Had a very good game as well. But it still makes me wonder how on earth a team like Chelsea, and I kept saying it, and you know, I said it in WhatsApps and I said it to other Chelsea fans, that I just didn't feel confident last night going into that game. And even when the game was on, I still didn't feel confident. I just didn't feel like we were going to win the game. And there were moments where we have to be honest as well, that Copenhagen had their chances to score goals. They just weren't clinical in front of goal. But we can't play like that on Sunday. We just can't. We'll get battered. We'll get absolutely hammered by Arsenal on Sunday. That's the real story that came out of that game last night, is we cannot play like that against Arsenal. It just can't happen. So things have to be better. Much better. Because if Arsenal turn up the way they did against PSV, you won't see me for 7 days. You will not see me for 7 days. It's as simple as that. We can't afford to drop points against Arsenal. It's Arsenal. And I don't need to say any more about it, but we can't drop points against them. And we can't put in a performance like we did. And albeit it's going to be a completely different squad that lined up yesterday to start the game against Copenhagen. But even so, the likes of Cole Palmer, still something isn't clicking for him at this part of the season. And it might be that he's just desperate to score a goal. He wants a goal. We know that he missed the penalty against Leicester last weekend as well. So he has to do more. He has to do more. He has to do more. As impressive Jurgensen in goal, I thought he didn't really have much to deal with, but when he was called upon, he looked confident in front of goal, or in the goal, I should say. But yeah, we have to see what happens there. I'm really, really not certain we can beat Arsenal. And that's a tough one for me to say, because we have to beat them. But we cannot turn up how we played last night at the Emirates on Sunday. We'll get battered, absolutely hammered. And that can't happen. That can't happen. So let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. We are through to the next round. I think we're playing Legia Warsaw in the next rounds. They went through last night as well. So those games are coming up in April. The 2 legs. We are through, quarterfinalists. Let me know what you think in the comments section about all of that stuff. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button as well. And we'll be back with the weekend match preview later on. And also don't forget, another video will be dropping today as well. Darmesh will be having his match video blog from last night's game coming out as well. So make sure you tune in for that one. Until then, enjoy the weekend. We'll be back soon. Enjoy.